This is going to take up a little bit of room. Hi folks, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And today I'm going to start my next project, and it's a big one. The Tamiya 1/32 scale Mitsubishi A6M2b Zero Fighter Model 21 Zeke. As always, first things first, big thanks to Eric Davenport. Another kit that he sent me. Eric, if you're watching, I really appreciate it. Looking forward to starting another one. This kit right here I've been sitting on for a while, waiting for the opportunity to build it for no other reason than just it's time. So what I'm going to do with this video series is I'm going to do kind of my old style. I'm going to do a inbox review, talk about stuff. There's kind of a lot to talk about, so that's why I'm going to keep it to one video. I'll try to break it up into chapters so you can skip the stuff you want to see if you don't want to see the whole thing. And then in the next video, I'll start with the actual build process. In the usual pre-build, pre-review research, scale mates. Mitsubishi A6M2b Zero Fighter Model 21 Zeke, Tamiya, kit number 60317 in 1/32 scale. This kit started its life, its timeline in 2000 with the Zero Fighter Zeke Mitsubishi A6M5. After that, we got new parts, and that became the A6M5, and that was a real sound action set, whatever that is. And then we had more new parts. That was the Mitsubishi A6M5, and that came with live engine sound CD. And then, so basically those were all three the same kit. And then we got new parts in 2006, which brings us to this particular boxing here. Before we dig into the box, there are a few videos that are already on YouTube, and I'm not going to be talking about anything that already hasn't been talked about before. But for the people who watch my channel, or maybe tuning in for the first time, and this is what they see, this is mainly for those types of people. So let's take a look at the box and its contents. Let's get into the box. So nice big heavy thick box, the usual Tamiya illustration on the front, nicely painted representation of the aircraft. Then the information with some nice Japanese characters. I really like that. I'd really like to know what that even says. But nice illustration. The side of the box shows two of the marking options, both of them participants in the Pearl Harbor attack. On the other side, we have photographs of completed kit parts. We have the cockpit and the engine. We have the wing tips, which you can pose either folded or extended, and you can switch those out according to how you want to display it from time to time. We have a photo of the photo etch, the cockpit canopy masks, landing gear parts, some other small parts, the tires, and we have it all in Japanese and English. Then we have this illustration of how you can actually store it in the box to keep it safe or to transport it if you need to. Very clever, and we'll get into that. Also comes with a pretty groovy stand here, so you can pose it with the landing gear up or the landing gear down. When you first open the box, you are greeted with this. Now this is the display holder, let's call it. You punch these things out or whatever, and then you can display it in here. And we'll get into that later as well, but it's got information about the kit here, then stuff about the actual aircraft itself, all in English. Inside, we have bags of plastic. We have this piece of wire in this package here. bags of plastic. We even have a standing and seated pilot, which I will definitely be using. Then we have the clear parts, more plastic parts, the display stand, more plastic parts, and then we get into the paper goodies, which we'll talk about in a moment. But then we have this box right here, which contains all kinds of accessory type stuff. Again, we'll get to that in a minute. As far as the paper products, we've got important information concerning this kit, a little pamphlet here in numerous languages, which is kind of groovy. Then we have the ever-present tech tips, Tamiya craft tools, notes on cutting off parts, removing excess plastic, using different types of cements, test fitting, removing metal plating, which doesn't pertain to this kit, different types of paints and how to use them. Then we have the instructions. Has a nice photographic representation of the actual kit. I'm just curious if they have these included. Wheel chocks, that's kind of groovy. But nice illustration of the aircraft here, and you can see it through washes and whatnot. You can see there's some nice rivet and panel line detail on this aircraft. So it should look really good when completed. Open it up, we get into information about the aircraft in Japanese here with illustrations, and then we have information here in English, here in German. But on this one here, they show nice illustrations of some of the features, the engine, folding wing tips, and some carrier deck zeros on carrier Akagi. Then we have more of the information in other languages here. Then we get into read before assembly, the tools recommended, and then we get into painting. Prior to painting, plastic paint, spray painting, etc. Shows the different bottle types. We got the spray cans, we've got the most recognizable glass jars of the X and XF paints, and then the smaller bottle that looks like XF20, which would be a thinner, I believe, but they also have enamel paints in those size bottles. Then down on the bottom here we have the color callouts, and these don't use any mixes, so I'll do a bit of research and see if I need to modify any colors, but I think for this kit I will be using Tamiya paints. Then we get in here, read before assembly. We have that in Japanese and English, again, other languages. This kit provides a selection of 7 sets of markings. Choose one before commencing assembly, referring to separate finishing guide. So we've got A through G. So there's a lot of marking options. I haven't decided which one I'm going to do yet, but I will do that in the near future. I want to do a little bit of research on the particular pilots, see if there's any cool stories to go along with it, because I really like building stuff when there is an interesting backstory. Then we get to step 1 with the fuselage, all the paint. I'm not going to go through all of the instructions here because it would take forever, because this is quite a thick book. As a matter of fact, this booklet has a total, including front cover and back cover, 32 pages. So we're not going to go through all of it. So anyway, I'll point out a few kind of interesting things. There's lots of, we'll call it gimmicky type things going on in this kit, but I think they'll be kind of cool. But we'll talk about that as we move along. But one thing I do like, for instance, here, the spine of the aircraft is a single piece that fits on top of here, so you don't have a seam line running down the middle where you have to do a bunch of sanding and stuff and wreck any detail. So then we get into the cockpit. cockpit, cockpit, then we get into the guns. We got our pilot here, then the whole assembly going into the fuselage. Then we get into the horizontal stabilizers, control surfaces, all of that kind of stuff. So what a person needs to do when building this is to pay attention to which version they're doing, because on occasion something will pop up for marking option A, do this, for marking option B, do this, etc. But it all looks really straightforward, not too much going on in each section. Then step 59, we've got 60 steps, 59 being actual assembly stuff. And that is there in case you want to use the display stand. And that involves poking a hole in the bottom. And I think I will be doing that. I may put it on its wheels at times, and I may put it on the stand at times. But that little hole in the bottom will not bother me. Then you have this nice little plaque here. So I may look into doing like a carrier deck display base, but we'll see. Then we get into the pilot. Lots of nice color call outs on how to paint the guy. I will be painting, and I'll probably do both of them. I'm not sure if I want to have the pilot inside of the aircraft, which I probably should if I'm going to have it on the stand with the gear up, but we'll see. Storing the model. So this is a way you can store it. You have these like little extensions. You can put the plane on the aircraft on this cool cutout type inner box, and then you can put the lid on, and these extensions here keeps the lid from smashing down on the aircraft. Then we get into the markings for a given version. So A, B, C, D, E, and G, Model 21, manufactured by Mitsubishi, will do what's on this page right here. Then for F, Zero Fighter Model 21, manufactured by Nakajima, you would do these markings. Same on this page. And then we have 2 whole pages of what comes in the boxes, the sprues and all the extra stuff. So this is quite the book of information. Then we have some information on painting, applying decals, etc. Next up, we have the marking option sheet with the main color callouts and the decals that go for a given version. This is A here, Lieutenant Saburo Shindo, Air Superiority Command, 2nd Strike Unit. Shows the 3 colors they recommend. So XF76, X18, and AS12 are the primary colors that will be used for the overall finish. Then it shows, you know, certain decals not used. But yeah, it looks really nice. Now, I'm going to have to decide, and I think I've already decided, but I am probably going to paint the larger markings, like the stripes, the Hinomarus, you know, the bands on the fuselage, even these little stripes on the landing gear. I think I'm going to paint that, and I may try and see if I can figure out a way to make these into stencils. Do some stencils for those, because I'd really like to paint the larger markings. You know, all the placards and, you know, smaller stencils, steps here, do not walk here, etc. You know, I'll use the decals for that, but I think for the larger markings, I'm going to paint them. But anyway, so we have quite a few marking options, and I'll just have to do a little research, like I said, and figure out what I'm going to do. Next, in one bag, we have the stickers for the placard, the display placard, and they're kind of nice, like kind of a heavy foil type stuff. I really like that they offer both English and Japanese. I'll just have to decide which one I want to use, because I think the Japanese characters would be really appropriate for this aircraft. Now here's something that's nice. We've got some seat belts. Now this is like a one-piece sticker, so I'm guessing I'll have to cut them out. But it's kind of nice that they offer these. It's, you know, one of those things you don't have to buy HGW or whatever aftermarket stuff. We've got the canopy masks that, you know, you have to cut them out yourself, but I've used them before, and especially this side, as long as you got a nice sharp blade, it's not an issue to have to cut them out. It just takes a steady hand. And then we have the decals. Now they are Tamiya decals, so they're a little on the thick side, but as I say, I really want to paint the larger markings on. The smaller ones are a little easier, it seems, to get to blend in and not be so pronounced when putting on, you know, final coats of paint, and you don't have to worry about, you know, a lot of decal solutions to get these things to conform due to their thickness. I mean, they're good and they're serviceable, and I've used their decals lots of times. It's just when they're large like this, to me it's worth it to take a little extra time and to paint them on. But they all look really good, really nice, colorful. They just, you know, they look really good. I just wish they could figure out a way to make them a little bit thinner, and they would be just really jolly. All right, let's talk about some of the plastic, and we'll start with this stand. Like I said, I think I'm going to use this stand just because. Here's the part where the nameplate goes, the upright, the base. Not a whole lot to talk about, but it is pretty cool, and I think I will be using that. Unlike most kits, this does not start with A, it starts with D. And D is obviously engine parts. Cylinders. We also have some machine guns here. Just various and sundry engine parts. They all look really nice, well molded, the whole usual spiel. I do like the engraving on these cylinder heads here, or the cylinders and the cylinder heads. Very nice, even engraving, so those will take a wash really nice. All the parts look pretty good. Now I've noticed, and I don't know how it'll be on other parts, but sometimes manufacturers, where the sprue gates are, they'll be molded on to the flat surface where the glue would go. In this case, they're on the sides. Now sometimes when they're on that flat surface, it's kind of cool if you don't want to mar anything up, but sometimes they just don't. They're a little trickier to use, and it'd be just as easy just to have it on the sides like this. But that's just my personal opinion, and you know, both ways have merit, I guess. But that's sprue D. Then we have sprue A, and that is the horizontal stabilizers, the prop, the spinner, the back plate of the prop, the elevators. The elevators have really nice sunken detail to simulate fabric. Looks really good. It's not too even, at least not to my eye, and that'll look good once it's all painted up. Then we have cockpit parts, and just lots and lots of detail here. And it looks like they have, for the most part, kept all the ejector pin markings on non-visible surfaces. We'll see how this bulkhead here fares when it comes to that. Hopefully that's facing the back of the fuselage so as not to be able to see it. Control stick, mold seam lines, just on a cursory glance here without magnification, doesn't look like there's much in the way of mold seam lines. There's one here. but they're very faint, and this may not be a part that you'd see anyway, I don't know. But just lots of little details here, and they all look good. There are some mold seam lines like on these cylinders here, but very minor, easy to clean up, and that's just, you know, part and parcel of model kits. Lots of small cockpit details, which means, now I can go either way with this. If it's all molded in place, that's fine. If it's not, that's fine as well. The one nice thing about it not being molded in place, it makes it a lot easier to paint and then glue onto the sides of the cockpit here. So yeah, that all looks really good. Nice rivet detail in the gear bay doors and on these surfaces here. Man, it looks really good. Next up we have H. Let's zoom in. More small parts here. Looks like maybe landing gear parts. Leading edge of the wing, assuming where machine guns would be. And this right here is a tool, and we'll see how that works much later. But not much to talk about there. Sprue H. Zoomed in, this is sprue K, fuselage halves. This is the detail. For lack of a better term, it looks realistic in scale. The panel lines are not big, huge gouges. They're very fine, as is the rivet detail. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one does with some washes and stuff. That should really make that look good. Let's see, cowling parts, the seat, pilot seat, tail hook, fuel tanks, I'm assuming, firewall maybe. Not real familiar with all the parts and what they're called, but just detail looks really nice. We've got, it'll be interesting to see how this bottom glues up, because there is rivet detail really close to the edge. So hopefully this lines up good enough that I don't have to mess that up in any way. Then we have sprue M, which are the ailerons here. Again, nice fabric representation. Very nice, like hinge looking detail there. Along the, where the, I guess these are trim tabs. The rudder, same thing, nice texture, simulated fabric. Nice looking stuff. Sprue P, and this really gives you an idea of the size of this thing. Lower wing, upper wing, I just can't talk about the detail good enough, or enough. Very nice, looks really good. Counterweights for the ailerons, I'm assuming, and they're big enough that they might not just pop off every 5 minutes once I glue them on. I'm assuming that's the tail. Really small parts going on here, but these look really good. I really like the looks of these the detail on this thing. These rivets are just so, man, looks really nice. Sprue Q, we've got the cowl flaps, open or closed, engine mounts, floor. I think there's 2 of these in this kit, as a matter of fact, so I'm sure I'll have to pay attention to see which one's which. Radios, I'm assuming, spinners. These look like magazines for the guns, perhaps. All very nice, really nice detail right here. Let's see, let's zoom in. Hopefully you can see it. Nice little dial action going there. Paint those up, hit them with a dry brush. Should look really good. And finally, we get 2 sprues here. Sprue R. mounts for bombs, bomb here, and then the wing tips. So there's two sets of these. There's one for folded and one for extended. Ah, and they do come with the wheel chocks, so that's cool. That make a nice little addition to the base. Then we have sprue T and F. So there's an F there. Looks like we have landing lights. Some other clear bits here. Some of them I'm not sure what they are. Then we have the rear bit of canopy, the sliding portion, and the windscreen. They all look really nice, very clear. We even have goggles for the pilot. Now that's awesome, because clear is just one of those things. You can do all kinds of tricky stuff using silver and clear paints and stuff like that to make them look like, you know, but nothing beats clear. Looks really good. Very tiny lights going on here. These, I think, are the lights on the upper parts of the wing. Then we have the gun sight there. All nice looking parts. And the last sprue, appropriately labeled Z, are the figures. We have a seated pilot figure, and then we have a standing figure. And I will be taking a look. I'm going to use them for sure. They look good. Totally paintable. The detail's good enough that I should be able to paint them rather nicely. And hopefully I can trade off by having a guy standing outside and the guy in the pilot seat. I don't know if he'll come out of the pilot seat though. It may be too tight of a squeeze. But anyway, the figures look really nice, and I'll talk more about those when we get to that part of the build. And finally, the last thing in the box is this long box of various and sundry accessories. So we have the I'm going to assume these are brake lines here. I'm not going to take them out of the bag yet. Then we have the tires. Now this is all like a rubberized material, I guess, for realism. This one is labeled G. Then we have these black parts here, which are the landing gear. Now this is kind of nice here. Again, I'm not going to take this out just yet. But this lower portion here, the actual strut part, is metal. So that's really nice. So you have to paint it. It already looks like metal. And then this here, I believe that is a tool for something or other. I just don't remember what. But that one is sprue J. Then we have the cowling here, the two cowling halves. Same nice detail. Then we have springs, O-rings, and such, and that's for part of the gimmickry of this. The O-rings, I believe, are for the drop tank. So you can stab it in there, and if you want it off, all you have to do is pull it out. I think you can put a bomb instead. Then we have these little clips here. Look like, I'm sure they're stainless steel, and some pins. So that's something you'd want to be really careful and not lose. Then we have some grease and a screwdriver. We have string, screws, polycaps, the string for the chocks, the wheel chocks. Then we have some photo etch for the belt buckles. And then some screens, looks like some hooks of some kind. And it's made out of the nickel or whatever they like to use. Then we have more pins. Of varying lengths. And there you go. That's what comes in this box here. So there you have it. That is the end of the stuff in the box. So in the next video, part 2, when we actually start construction, I will start out the video and with what my plan is as far as marking options, which pilot I'm going to be interested in this particular build. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I will end part 1 of the Tamiya 132 scale Mitsubishi A6M2b Zero. If you have any experience with this kit, I'd really like to hear about it in the comments section down below. Also, if you like this video, hit the like button so Mr. Algorithm can get this out there so people can see it. Also, if you feel like it and you haven't done it yet, hit the subscribe button. That way you can follow with the rest of this build, or you can check out some of the backlog of my other stuff or stuff to come in the future. So there you go. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and until next time, I will see you all later.